Listen closely because that ordinary penny sitting in your pocket could be worth far more than 1 cent. Across the United States, people still spend old Lincoln wheat pennies without realizing that some rare examples can be highly valuable to collectors. At first glance, these coins may look old, worn, and completely ordinary, but a tiny detail, a rare date, mint mark, or unusual error, can make a huge difference in value. Today on Rare Nickel Coin PK, we're revealing 4 incredibly rare Lincoln wheat pennies that collectors actively search for. Some of these coins have made headlines for surprising auction prices, and others are the kind of pieces serious collectors dream of finding. So before you spend an old wheat penny, take a closer look. Check the date, mint mark, and overall condition. You might be holding something much more valuable than you think. And make sure you stay until the end, because each coin on this list gets even more interesting. Now, let's start with coin number 1. Imagine finding a Lincoln wheat penny dated 1920 with no mint mark, holding this nearly century-old copper coin under the light, and realizing that you may be looking at a piece of American history from one of the most fascinating periods in the entire Lincoln cent series. The 1920 Lincoln wheat penny is a classic early wheat cent, produced at the Philadelphia Mint and carrying no mint mark beneath the date. More than 310 million were struck, so the excitement is not simply about finding the date. It is about discovering an example with excellent preservation, attractive natural color, unusual minting characteristics, or extraordinary condition. Professional market records show just how powerful condition can be. PCGS records a $16,800 auction result for a 1920 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS67 plus red, sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. That is an extraordinary result for a coin that originally had a face value of 1 cent, and it demonstrates why serious collectors continue to examine old wheat pennies with extraordinary care. The story of the 1920 Lincoln wheat penny takes us back to the years immediately following World War I, a period of enormous change in American society, industry, transportation, and commerce. The Lincoln cent had already been an important part of everyday life for more than a decade, featuring Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the 2 wheat stalks on the reverse. By 1920, the wheat cent design was firmly established as one of America's most recognizable coins. The Philadelphia Mint produced 310,165,000 examples that year, making the 1920 issue one of the more commonly encountered Lincoln cents of the 1920s. Yet the survival of truly exceptional pieces is a different story, because decades of circulation, storage, handling, and environmental exposure have left relatively few coins in outstanding condition. One of the first things to understand about this coin is the importance of the missing mint mark. When a 1920 Lincoln wheat penny has no letter beneath the date, that normally identifies it as the Philadelphia issue. Denver coins carry a D and San Francisco coins carry an S, while Philadelphia traditionally used no mint mark. This makes the no mint mark characteristic an important identification feature, but it should not automatically be treated as an error. The standard 1920 Philadelphia cent was struck from approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighs about 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters, and has a plain edge. Those specifications give collectors a useful foundation when examining an old example and help confirm that the coin matches the standard Philadelphia issue. The design of the 1920 Lincoln wheat penny is one of the reasons this coin remains so popular. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait dominates the coin, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, with the 1920 date positioned beneath the portrait. On the reverse, the famous wheat stalks frame 1 cent and United States of America, creating the classic appearance that collectors immediately associate with the wheat penny era. These details are especially enjoyable to study on an older coin because every surviving mark and trace of wear tells part of the coin's story. 1920 penny has been around for generations, and even an example that circulated extensively can still preserve enough of the original design to make it an attractive historical collectible. When you mention a circulated 1920 Lincoln wheat penny, condition becomes one of the most important subjects to examine. Circulated coins have passed through hands, businesses, banks, cash registers, and countless transactions, but the degree of wear can vary enormously. A lightly circulated coin may retain sharp lettering and substantial detail, while a heavily circulated example can show significant smoothing on Lincoln's portrait and the wheat stalks. Collectors use standardized grading categories to distinguish these differences, and even small changes in condition can produce meaningful changes in market value. For a 1920 Philadelphia cent, the difference becomes especially exciting when a coin moves from ordinary circulated condition into about uncirculated or mint state territory, because the number of truly exceptional survivors becomes much smaller. Color is another fascinating part of the 1920 Lincoln cent story. Copper coins naturally change appearance as they age, and surviving examples can display brown, or red characteristics depending on their preservation and original surfaces. A circulated 1920 penny will commonly show darker or brownish copper coloration, but collectors are particularly interested when original mint color survives in exceptional condition. PCGS separately lists brown, and red examples of the 1920 Philadelphia issue, and the finest red coins command significant attention because original copper color becomes increasingly difficult to preserve as a coin survives for more than a century. This is why an old copper cent should be appreciated for its natural surfaces rather than altered in an attempt to make it brighter. The rarity of the 1920 Philadelphia cent is a perfect example of how condition rarity works. The original mintage was 310,165,000, and PCGS describes the date as one of the more common Lincoln cent dates from the 1920s. But PCGS estimates only around 5,000 survivors at MS60 or better, and roughly 2,000 at MS65 or better for the red category, while the number at the highest grades becomes extremely small. This means that although many 1920 cents exist in circulated grades, a superbly preserved example can become a much more specialized collectible. The coin's story changes completely when the focus shifts from simply owning a 1920 cent to owning one of the finest 1920 cents known to the collecting community. The current market gives us a powerful picture of that difference. A general 2026 value guide from USA Coinbook places a 1920 Philadelphia wheat penny at approximately 30 cents in good condition, $1.24 in very fine, $3.08 in extremely fine, $7.29 in about uncirculated, and about $25 to $34 in uncirculated grades depending on the exact grade. These are guide values rather than guaranteed selling prices, but they provide a useful framework for ordinary examples. At the same time, professional auction records show that exceptional coins can go vastly higher. The market therefore has several levels: everyday circulated examples, attractive higher-grade pieces, and extraordinary condition rarities that can bring thousands of dollars. The high-end auction record is where the 1920 penny becomes especially exciting for treasure hunters. PCGS records a remarkable $16,800 sale for a 1920 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS67 plus RD at Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. PCGS also records an MS67 red example that sold for $5,760 at Stack's Bowers in October 2018. These results demonstrate the enormous difference between a circulated coin and a superb certified example. The coins that bring these prices are not ordinary circulated pennies. They are extraordinary survivors with exceptional preservation, color, surfaces, and eye appeal. For collectors, these auction results create a strong incentive to inspect older wheat cents carefully, because the true opportunity is identifying a coin whose condition is much better than it initially appears. There is another exciting side to the 1920 issue. Unusual minting errors and striking characteristics can create additional collector interest. Modern auction records include examples such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and other unusual pieces from the 1920 issue. One 1920 Lincoln cent struck 20% off-center in XF40 brought $159 at Heritage Auctions in March 2025, while a broadstruck MS62 brown example sold for $119 in March 2026. These are not ordinary examples, but they demonstrate an important principle of numismatics. Collectors may pay significant premiums when a coin displays a genuine and documented minting error. If your 1920 penny appears unusual, the smartest approach is to investigate the exact characteristic rather than assuming that every irregular-looking feature is valuable. This is where the exciting idea of coins that could make you a millionaire enters the conversation. The ordinary 1920 Philadelphia wheat penny should not be advertised as a guaranteed $1,000,000 coin, especially in circulated condition. However, the Lincoln cent series has repeatedly demonstrated how extraordinary rarity, condition, errors, and collector competition can transform a 1-cent coin into a major numismatic asset. The documented $16,800 auction result for a superb MS67 plus RD 1920 Philadelphia cent proves that this date has genuine high-end potential. The important lesson is that the value comes from the exact characteristics of the individual coin. A circulated example, a certified gem example, a top population red coin, and a major mint error can occupy completely different markets even though all of them carry the same 1920 date. If you have a 1920 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, begin your inspection with the date and mint mark area and confirm that there is truly no D or S beneath the date. Then examine Lincoln's portrait under good lighting. Study the hair, cheek, jaw, forehead, lettering, and open fields for the amount of wear and the presence of marks. Turn the coin over and carefully inspect both wheat stalks, the lettering, and the surrounding fields. A strong strike with excellent detail can make a circulated coin particularly attractive, while unusually sharp surfaces may suggest that the coin deserves a closer grading evaluation. Magnifying glass can be extremely helpful when examining small details, especially around the date, lettering, and potential minting anomalies. The most important preservation advice is simple: protect the coin exactly as it is. If your 1920 penny has attractive natural tunning or original copper surfaces, do not polish it, scrub it, or use chemicals to make it appear brighter. Cleaning can permanently alter the surface and may reduce the coin's desirability to knowledgeable collectors. Instead, handle the coin carefully by its edges and keep it in a suitable protective holder. If the coin appears unusually well preserved, has strong original color, or displays a genuine-looking minting anomaly, professional authentication and grading can be an excellent next step. A certified grade can provide a much clearer foundation for understanding the coin's place in the collector market. Another important point for anyone researching the 1920 penny is to separate actual auction results from dramatic online asking prices. A seller can advertise an old wheat penny for an enormous amount, but an asking price does not prove that a buyer will pay it. Documented auction results are much more useful because they show what collectors actually paid for specific examples. The 1920 issue gives us several strong examples, from ordinary circulated guide values to $119 and $159 realized prices for documented mint errors, and all the way to $5,760 and $16,800 for exceptional red mint state examples. This range is exactly what makes the coin so interesting. Its value depends on the precise combination of grade, color, originality, variety, error status, and collector demand. The 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny is also an excellent coin for collectors who want to understand the difference between common and conditionally rare. The date itself is relatively available, but the best examples are much more difficult to locate. PCGS describes MS66 as a scarce level and MS67 as very difficult to locate, with substantial premiums expected at these levels. NGC likewise notes that 1920 Philadelphia cents are common across grades, and that enough fully red gems exist to satisfy competitive registry collectors, showing that there is an active high-grade collecting community for this issue. This creates an exciting environment for anyone studying the date, because the challenge is not merely finding a 1920 cent. It is finding an example with the exact combination of quality that advanced collectors want. So, if you have a 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, give it the attention it deserves. Confirm the Philadelphia origin, examine the color and surfaces, determine how much detail remains, and look closely for unusual minting characteristics. A circulated example can be a wonderful piece of American history, while a sharply preserved specimen with original red color can enter a much more competitive collector market. The documented $16,800 auction record shows just how dramatically the value can rise when an ordinary 1-cent denomination becomes an extraordinary condition rarity. That is the magic of wheat penny collecting. A small copper coin can connect you to America a century ago, and in the right combination of grade, originality, rarity, and demand, that same little coin can become a highly sought-after collectible. Keep searching, keep learning, preserve what you find, and always look twice at old Lincoln wheat pennies, because the next remarkable discovery may be hiding in a collection or coin jar that someone else never thought to examine closely. Next up. A 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of those classic American coins that immediately captures the attention of collectors because it belongs to the early Lincoln wheat cent era and carries the history of America in the 1920s. The no-mint mark version was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the regular 1927 issue had a substantial mintage of 144,440,000 coins. But here is where the story becomes truly exciting. While many 1927 cents circulated heavily, exceptional examples preserved at extraordinary grades can command remarkable prices. PCGS records an auction result of $40,800 for a 1927 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS68 red, sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. That is an astonishing result for a coin that began its life with a face value of just 1 cent, and it demonstrates exactly why collectors continue searching old wheat pennies with such enthusiasm. The history behind the 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny makes this coin much more than an old piece of copper. The coin was produced during the prosperous and rapidly changing decade of the 1920s, when automobiles, manufacturing, cities, transportation, entertainment, and American consumer culture were transforming everyday life. The Lincoln cent itself had already been circulating for almost 2 decades, and Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln had become one of the most recognizable images on American money. On the reverse, the famous wheat stalks surround 1 cent and United States of America, giving the coin its familiar wheat penny identity. When you hold a 1927 penny today, you are holding a small surviving artifact from an era that existed nearly 100 years ago, making even an ordinary circulated example historically fascinating. One of the most important features of the 1927 coin is the absence of a mint mark. If your 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny has no D or S beneath the date, that normally means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. This is exactly what collectors expect from the standard Philadelphia issue, so the missing letter should not automatically be interpreted as an error. The coin measures 19 millimeters in diameter, weighs approximately 3.11 grams, has a plain edge, and uses the traditional Lincoln cent composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. These specifications are valuable when examining an old coin because they give you a reference point for identifying the normal issue and recognizing when something about a particular coin deserves additional investigation. The design itself is another reason the 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny continues to attract collectors. Lincoln's portrait occupies the obverse, with Liberty and In God We Trust surrounding the design and the 1927 date displayed beneath the portrait. Turn the coin over and the two wheat ears create the unmistakable reverse that defined the Lincoln cent from 1909 through 1958. On a circulated coin, every remaining line of detail becomes part of the story. The hair, cheek, jaw, wheat stalks, lettering, and open fields all provide clues about how much where the coin experienced during its long journey. For a collector, examining these details is almost like reading the history of the coin directly from its surfaces. Now let's focus on the circulated condition you mentioned. A circulated 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny can display considerable variation in appearance because these coins spent decades moving through everyday commerce. Some examples show strong remaining detail and attractive natural copper coloration, while others have much heavier wear. Collectors examine the highest points of Lincoln's portrait and the raised portions of the wheat reverse to determine how much detail remains. The more detail that survives, the more attractive the coin can become within its grade. An old circulated penny with clear lettering, a strong date, recognizable wheat details, and pleasing original surfaces can be a wonderful addition to a collection, especially for someone building a complete Lincoln wheat cent set. Color is another major part of the story. Copper naturally changes as it ages, and a 1927 Lincoln cent may display brown, reddish-brown, or traces of original red, depending on its preservation and environment. Professional grading services commonly use brown, and red designations for copper Lincoln cents. The highest premiums are generally associated with coins that retain substantial original red color, while also reaching exceptional mint state grades. PCGS specifically lists separate brown, and red categories for the 1927 Philadelphia issue. This makes color an important factor for anyone searching through old pennies, because two coins with the exact same date and mint can have dramatically different collector appeal when their surfaces and color preservation are different. The rarity story of the 1927 Philadelphia cent becomes particularly interesting when we move from the original mintage to the population of truly exceptional survivors. More than 144 million were struck, so the date itself is not one of the rarest Lincoln cents. However, the number of coins that survive in extraordinary condition is far smaller. PCGS population information shows that the certified population becomes increasingly specialized at the highest grades, particularly for red examples. The current PCGS population report lists only a small number of 1927 red cents at the very top of the grading scale, demonstrating that elite condition is where the real scarcity develops. This is an important lesson for collectors. A coin can be plentiful in circulated condition while simultaneously being extremely desirable in a top grade. This condition rarity is exactly what creates serious collector demand. Advanced Lincoln cent collectors often want coins that are not merely genuine examples of a date, but exceptionally attractive representatives of that date. Registry set collectors, specialists, and high-grade enthusiasts compete for coins with outstanding surfaces, strong strikes, attractive color, and excellent eye appeal. The 1927 Philadelphia cent is particularly interesting because PCGS lists multiple recognized varieties, including double-die obverse examples. That means a collector examining a 1927 penny should not stop after identifying the date and mint origin. The coin may deserve a closer inspection for a recognized variety, and that extra layer of research is one of the reasons the Lincoln Wheat Cent series remains so engaging. The current high-end market gives us an extraordinary example of what this coin can accomplish. PCGS reports a $40,800 auction record for the regular 1927 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS-68RD, sold by Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. That is the kind of number that immediately explains why high-grade wheat pennies attract so much attention. A circulated 1927 cent and an MS-68 red example are fundamentally different market objects, even though both carry the same date and design. The $40,800 result belongs to an extraordinary certified coin with elite preservation and color, so it should not be used as the value of every 1927 penny. Instead, it demonstrates the tremendous premium that can develop when rarity, grade, original color, and collector competition come together in one exceptional specimen. There is also a fascinating variety market surrounding the 1927 issue. PCGS lists 1927 double-die obverse varieties, including FS101, and separates these varieties into brown, and red categories. This is important because genuine die varieties can create additional collector interest beyond the standard date and mint combination. If your 1927 penny appears to show unusual doubling around the lettering or date, do not simply assume that every unusual appearance is valuable. Instead, compare the characteristics carefully with established variety references. Genuine attribution requires specific diagnostics, and professional authentication can be extremely valuable when a coin appears to match a recognized variety. This is where the exciting phrase "coins that could make you a millionaire" enters the conversation. The 1927 no-mint-mark Lincoln Wheat Penny should not be described as a guaranteed $1 million coin, particularly when it is an ordinary circulated example. But the broader Lincoln cent series demonstrates why coin hunting remains such an exciting hobby. A 1-cent coin can move from everyday money into the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars when extraordinary grade, rarity, color, variety, or error characteristics are involved. The documented $40,800 result for an MS-68 red 1927 Philadelphia cent is a powerful example of that principle. The real opportunity for collectors is learning to identify the unusual coin hiding among ordinary examples rather than assuming that every old penny has the same value. If you have a circulated 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny, begin your inspection by confirming the date and checking beneath the date for the absence of a mint mark. Next, examine Lincoln's portrait carefully under strong lighting. Study the hair, cheek, jaw, forehead, lettering, and surrounding fields for the amount of wear and the quality of the remaining detail. Then turn the coin over and inspect both wheat stalks, the lettering, and the open fields. Look for unusual doubling or other characteristics that might justify further research. A magnifying glass can be extremely helpful because some variety diagnostics are subtle and cannot be identified confidently with the naked eye. One of the most important tips for any collector is to preserve the coin exactly as you find it. If your 1927 penny has attractive natural tunning or original copper surfaces, do not polish, scrub, scrape, or chemically clean it. Attempts to make an old coin look brighter can permanently alter the surface and reduce its desirability to knowledgeable collectors. Handle the coin by its edges, keep it in a protective holder, and avoid unnecessary contact with the main surfaces. If the coin looks unusually sharp for a circulated piece, has remarkable color, or appears to show a recognized variety, professional authentication and grading can provide an important next step. A certified grade can establish a much stronger foundation for comparing the coin with documented market results. When discussing current market value, it is also essential to separate ordinary circulated coins from exceptional certified examples. Published guides and dealer prices for circulated 1927 Philadelphia cents can vary according to grade, while the market for certified high-grade red examples operates at a completely different level. PCGS's auction record of $40,800 shows the extraordinary top end, but that price belongs to a specific MS-68 RD coin and should never be automatically applied to a circulated example. The best way to understand your coin's market position is to determine its exact condition, color, variety, and authenticity, and then compare it with sales of genuinely similar pieces. That approach gives collectors a realistic foundation while still allowing them to appreciate the enormous upside that exceptional specimens can achieve. The 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny is therefore a fascinating coin for both beginning collectors and advanced specialists. A circulated example offers a direct connection to American history and the remarkable era of the 1920s, while a high-grade red specimen can become a major numismatic prize. The existence of recognized double-die varieties adds another exciting dimension, and the documented $40,800 auction result demonstrates that exceptional quality can transform this 1-cent denomination into a highly valuable collectible. So if you have a 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, do not overlook it. Study the date, inspect the surfaces, examine the color, check the design details, and look carefully for anything unusual. Protect the coin, learn everything you can about it, and remember that the true excitement of collecting is discovering the difference between an ordinary survivor and an extraordinary one. A little copper penny from 1927 may have traveled through nearly a century of American history, and in the right condition with the right variety and the right collector demand, it can become far more than a piece of pocket change. Next up, the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of those classic American coins that can instantly capture the attention of collectors, especially when you find one with no mint mark and a beautiful, well-preserved appearance. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary old penny, but this historic 1-cent piece carries a story connected to one of the most important periods in American history. The 1941 issue was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which means a genuine 1941 penny without a mint mark is exactly what collectors expect from this production. With its famous Lincoln portrait, distinctive wheatear reverse, original bronze composition, and more than 8 decades of history, this coin remains a fascinating target for anyone searching through old collections, inherited coin jars, estate finds, or accumulated wheat cents. And when condition, color, strike quality, and certification come together in an exceptional example, the market can become dramatically more interesting, with premium auction results reaching far beyond the ordinary value of circulated pieces. The history behind the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny makes it even more exciting. Victor David Brenner's Lincoln cent design had already become one of the most recognizable coin designs in the United States, and by 1941 the wheat reverse had been in production for more than 3 decades. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, Liberty beside him, and the date 1941 positioned in front of his portrait. Turn the coin over, and you see the 2 wheat ears that gave this entire coin series its famous nickname, surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. At the top is EPLURBUSUNUM. The coin measures about 19 millimeters across and weighs approximately 3.11 grams, and the standard 1941 Philadelphia issue was made from a bronze alloy containing about 95% copper with tin and zinc. These details give the coin an unmistakable historical character and make it instantly recognizable to wheat penny collectors around the world. One of the most important features to understand is the absence of a mint mark. If you look beneath the date on a 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny and see no small letter such as D or S, that does not mean something is missing or that the coin is automatically in error. It means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where cents of this era were produced without a mint mark. Philadelphia produced approximately 887 million 1941 Lincoln cents for circulation, making the no-mint mark version the largest of the 3 major 1941 issues. That huge production number is an important part of the story because it tells us that the date itself is not an ultra-rare issue. Instead, the real excitement for collectors comes from finding an example with exceptional preservation, strong original surfaces, attractive color, excellent strike quality, or a recognized variety. This is where an ordinary-looking old penny can become a much more serious numismatic discovery. The color of a 1941 wheat penny can also make a major difference in how collectors view the coin. Copper coins naturally change color as they age, and professional grading services commonly distinguish between brown, and red examples. A brown coin can still be highly collectible, particularly when it has strong detail and attractive surfaces, but an original red example that has preserved much of its mint state appearance can command substantially greater attention. This is especially true at the highest grades, where tiny differences in surface quality, luster, color preservation, and marks can separate an impressive coin from an exceptional one. For a collector searching for a potentially high-value 1941 no-mint mark cent, the goal is therefore not simply to find the year 1941, but to locate a coin with the strongest possible combination of original color, sharp details, clean surfaces, and outstanding overall eye appeal. Condition is where the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny becomes especially interesting. A circulated coin may show wear across Lincoln's portrait and the wheat ears, while a higher-grade example can preserve much more of the original design and surface quality. Current published price guides show that ordinary examples can be worth only a modest premium over face value, while uncirculated examples can move into several dollars or more depending on grade and color. For example, USA Coin Book currently lists approximately 18 cents for good, 36 cents for very fine, 74 cents for extremely fine, $1.88 for about uncirculated, and around $2.50 to $3.62 or more for certain uncirculated examples, with proof examples listed separately. These figures are useful guideposts, but certified coins with exceptional grades can operate in a completely different market category. The really exciting part of the story is what happens when a 1941 Philadelphia cent reaches the upper levels of certified condition. PCGS identifies the 1941 Lincoln cent as a conditional rarity at the very highest mint state levels, particularly MS67 plus red and above. That means the enormous original mintage does not prevent the finest surviving examples from becoming scarce. In fact, high-grade collecting is all about survival and preservation. Millions may have been struck, but only a small number can survive decades of handling, circulation, environmental exposure, storage, and contact with other coins while retaining extraordinary surfaces and original color. This creates a fascinating situation where a common date coin can become a high-value condition rarity. PCGS records a 1941 Lincoln cent reaching $920 at auction in an XF45 brown example in 2007, while high-grade red-brown examples have also achieved hundreds of dollars at auction, demonstrating how dramatically value can change when a coin enters the premium collector market. Collector demand for the 1941 Wheat Penny remains strong because Lincoln cents are among the most widely collected American coins. Many collectors build complete Wheat Penny day-10 mint collections, while others focus specifically on high-grade examples, attractive color, varieties, or coins with exceptional eye appeal. The 1941 issue also has an important place in the timeline of American coinage because it was produced during a critical period immediately before the United States entered World War II. That historical connection adds another layer of interest. Collectors are not simply buying a small piece of copper. They are preserving an object that circulated during an era of enormous economic, political, and military change. This combination of history, affordability at lower grades, and the possibility of major premiums for exceptional specimens keeps the 1941 Lincoln cent firmly on the radar of serious collectors. When discussing the phrase "coins that could make you a millionaire," it is important to understand what actually creates extraordinary value in the rare coin market. Normal 1941 no mint mark Wheat Penny is not automatically a $1 million coin, and the absence of a mint mark by itself does not make it rare. The real opportunity comes from discovering an unusually valuable combination of rarity, condition, color, variety, provenance, and authentication. The highest value coins are usually extraordinary survivors or unusual varieties rather than ordinary circulated examples. For the 1941 cent, the most promising area to investigate is the top end of the grading scale, where exceptional red examples and recognized varieties can attract serious competition. Some modern online price sources advertise extremely high theoretical figures for top condition 1941 cents, but collectors should always distinguish those estimates from documented auction results and verified certified examples. For anyone holding a 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, the first step is careful examination. Start with the date and confirm that it really reads 1941. Then look directly below the date and verify that there is no D or S mint mark. Next, examine Lincoln's portrait and the lettering for sharpness and wear, and then carefully study the reverse. The wheat ears are particularly useful when evaluating how much detail remains. Strong separation and crisp lines can indicate a better preserved coin, while heavy flattening indicates circulation wear. Pay attention to the rims and surfaces as well, because scratches, dents, corrosion, cleaning, and other damage can influence desirability. The goal is to understand the coin before deciding what it might be worth. A bright-looking coin is not necessarily valuable, and an older brown-tone coin can still be an important collectible if its surfaces and grade are exceptional. Another important factor is whether the coin has been cleaned or altered. Collectors generally place a premium on original surfaces, and harsh cleaning can reduce the desirability of an otherwise attractive wheat penny. This is why it is best to resist the temptation to polish or chemically brighten an old coin. Let the coin retain its history and natural appearance. If you believe your 1941 no mint mark cent is unusually sharp, has remarkable original color, or may represent a recognized double die or other variety, professional authentication and grading can become extremely valuable. A reputable third-party grading service can establish an official grade and color designation, while the resulting certification can make it easier for buyers and auction houses to understand exactly what they are looking at. Auction records show why serious collectors pay such close attention to exceptional 1941 cents. PCGS lists a 1941 Lincoln cent auction record of $920 for an XF45 brown example, while a 1941 MS67 red brown example is documented at $630 in a 2024 Heritage auction sale. These are not ordinary prices for ordinary examples. They demonstrate how coin's grade, color, quality, and market presentation can transform its value. At the same time, current guide values show that most circulated 1941 no mint mark cents remain affordable, which is actually good news for collectors because it allows people to enter the series without needing a huge budget. The possibility of finding a truly superior specimen is what keeps the search exciting. The term very fine is also worth understanding because many collectors use it when describing the condition of older wheat cents. Very fine coin has experienced noticeable circulation, but still retains strong recognizable details. The date and lettering should remain clear, Lincoln's portrait should retain substantial design definition, and the reverse should still show meaningful detail in the wheat ears. A very fine 1941 Numismatic cent is certainly collectible, but the major financial excitement generally increases as condition rises toward about uncirculated and mint state levels. That is why two coins with the exact same year and mint identification can have dramatically different values. In the rare coin market, condition is not a minor detail. It is one of the central factors that determines how collectors compete for a particular specimen. One of the best strategies for collectors is to learn to compare coins rather than simply relying on a single price number. Look at several certified examples, study photographs of different grades, and compare surface quality, color, strike, and eye appeal. Pay special attention to coins graded in the MS65, MS66, MS67, and higher ranges because the jump in desirability can become significant at the top of the grading scale. PCGS's population and condition information illustrates that the finest examples occupy a very different category from ordinary survivors. This is why a collector who finds a beautiful 1941 Numismatic cent should not immediately assume it is ordinary simply because the date is common. A careful examination can reveal whether the coin deserves a closer professional look. There is also something deeply appealing about the idea of finding a valuable old coin in an unexpected place. Wheat pennies have passed through countless hands over generations, and some were placed into jars, albums, drawers, boxes, and family collections long ago. A coin that looks small and ordinary today may have been saved decades earlier because someone recognized its historical character. For collectors, that is part of the adventure. The 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is especially interesting because it combines a familiar American design with the fascinating challenge of identifying exceptional quality. Every coin can be examined, every surface can be studied, and every promising example can be compared against known certified pieces and auction results. If you have a 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, handle it carefully, avoid cleaning it, and inspect it under good lighting. Confirm the date, verify the Philadelphia no mint mark attribution, examine the color, study the wheat reverse, and look closely for original surfaces and unusually sharp detail. If the coin appears to be in exceptional condition, professional grading may be worthwhile because a certified grade can provide a much stronger foundation for determining market value. Keep in mind that published values change over time, and actual auction prices depend on the exact coin, grade, color, variety, certification, eye appeal, and market conditions. The current reference data shows that ordinary 1941 cents remain affordable, while exceptional high-grade pieces can bring substantial premiums, which is exactly why careful examination is so important. And this brings us to the biggest reason the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny remains such an exciting coin for collectors today. It represents the perfect combination of history and discovery. Most examples will be modestly valued, but the very best examples can become genuinely desirable numismatic pieces, and documented auction records prove that exceptional coins can reach hundreds of dollars and beyond. The key is understanding that rarity is not always about how many coins were originally produced. Sometimes it is about how few survived in truly exceptional condition. A 1941 Numismatic cent with outstanding preservation, original color, strong strike, clean surfaces, and credible certification can stand apart from the millions of ordinary examples that entered circulation. That is the opportunity collectors are chasing when they search through old wheat pennies. So, before you dismiss that 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny as just another old 1-cent coin, take a second look. Check the date, check beneath the date for the missing mint mark, examine Lincoln's portrait, turn it over and study those famous wheat ears, and pay close attention to the coin's color and condition. The 1941 Philadelphia issue may have had a huge original production run, but the finest surviving specimens can still command impressive attention in today's collector market. The documented values and auction records show that exceptional quality matters enormously, and that is what makes this coin such an exciting target for anyone interested in American numismatics. The next 1941 wheat penny you examine could be ordinary, or it could be a remarkably preserved survivor worthy of professional attention. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching, studying, and looking twice at every old Lincoln wheat penny they encounter.